In this video, we're going to take a look at Woodpecker's compact auxiliary rip fence, and I'm going to show you exactly how it installs on my DeWalt job site table saw. The table saw that I have here today is the DeWalt DWE 7480. Before we get into installing this on our fence, let's just go over the numbers real quick of what you gain with the auxiliary rip fence. So on this standard fence, you have a 21-inch fence, and it's about 3 1/4 inch tall. So with the auxiliary rip fence, the fence is about 4 inches tall, so it's a little taller, and it's 36 inches long. Now also, these Infeed and Outfeed support brackets come included with the auxiliary rip fence, and these are 7 inches long and 3 1/4 inches wide. Now to mount the auxiliary rip fence to our table saw fence, we're going to be using these two mounting blocks here. And they have a slot milled into them, and that slot accepts a standard track clamp. Now these mounting blocks, they can be moved anywhere along the fence so that it'll fit your table saw. I already have mine in the position that I like it. So I wanted to point out to you that if you go to mount it on this saw, just how it is right now, you'll notice real quick that this flip down support gets in the way of you clamping. You don't want to clamp to this. Now to remove this, there is a little screw that's going to be right here and on the other end. I already went ahead and removed that. So to pop off the fence, I'll just lift it up like that, and then it can just pop off like that. Now to install the compact auxiliary rip fence, I'll slide the fence back over on top of the table, and then set that on top of there like that, and clamp it in place. Now you'll see the clamp that I'm using has a threaded handle like this, as opposed to a ratcheting handle. I like them better. The ratcheting handles, they're hitting right there. They get in the way of a lot of stuff, and the handle, the way it's set up, it just doesn't work as well. So I don't recommend that you use ratcheting clamps with this auxiliary rip fence. Use one with a threaded handle like this. All right, now that's all installed. But on my current saw, you'll see the added infeed and the outfeed support that you get with this system, and that's what I like most about it. I already told you the measurements of these, and these are 7 inches long, and I have this outfeed support tight up against the edge of my table saw. So I got 7 added inches of outfeed support, and then you'll see that I have this little gap right here in between the table saw and my infeed support. So my total added infeed support is almost 10 inches, which is pretty huge and makes it a lot easier for when you're feeding your boards in to make a cut. Because without this system installed, you're probably already aware of this, you only have about 4 to 5 inches of fence to reference before you hit the blade. Now one thing I was concerned about with adding this to my job site table saw was that when I slid the fence over and it went off of the table like this, I was worried that this fence was going to add some weight to where my fence would dip down, and then I thought when I would slide this back onto the table, this fence might, hit my table. It might stop me from going back onto the table, but I was pleasantly surprised to see that that was not an issue at all. And so it all works really smooth. The other concern I had was the fact that I was clamping something to my fence. I was worried that it was going to throw off my scale. But the way Woodpecker's designed this, the mounting block plus the fence, when you measure them together, measures a perfect 2 inches wide. And I'm just glad it's a solid number like that, because it makes accounting for this fence super simple. So basically, if I wanted to make a rip at, we'll say, 15 inches, right? Instead of setting my cursor at 15 inches, I just add 2 to it, go to 17 inches, lock it in, and we are perfectly at 15 inches. Another thing I like about this fence, besides the fact that you get added infeed and outfeed, is that this Super Track has these slots that allow you to use other accessories and attachments, either that Woodpeckers makes or that you come up with on your own. Like this add an inch block, Woodpeckers released this sometime last year in the fall or so, but these holes in here line up perfectly with these 2 slots. So you can attach that to it. You can also use things like feather boards. This is a Woodpecker's one, and it slots right in there, nice and easy. I don't use feather boards all that often. If you do, and you'd like to use them, it's just another added perk of this fence. But what I thought about making are some sacrificial fences for when you're doing like rabbits and stuff, and basically just make like an MDF fence and put a hole through it and attach it to here with these slots. So how we have the fence right now is how you're gonna probably have the fence installed on your saw, I'd say 95% of the time. But there are 2 other functions of this fence, and I wanna go over them real quick. The first one that we're gonna go over is the fact that you can elevate this fence. You can raise it up off the table to help with edge jointing and template work. So to do that, I first removed those clamps, and then since we're raising this table, we're gonna have to actually remove our outfeed and infeed support bracket. So to remove those, I'll just grab an Allen wrench, just loosen those slightly, and then you can slide it on out like that. With both brackets now removed, we can go ahead and raise this fence so we can get it set up for edge jointing. Now, the board that I'm going to be edge jointing is this one, and I'm just going to slide this under the fence to elevate it. And now you don't want to just stop here and clamp your fence in place. You want the fence to be about an 1/8 inch or so above your workpiece. So I have these 2 little shims I'm going to put in here just to elevate it a little more. All right. And with it like that, we can go ahead and clamp this up. All right, and you can see how our workpiece can slide under the fence without getting caught up. Now I am aware that there is a perfect straight edge here that I could reference on a fence, but this is just for an example. So I got some double-sided tape here, and I'm going to stick on a piece of plywood that has a perfect straight edge on it. So now let's just pretend that this board is a little bit wider, okay? And in this instance, you would be able to reference the plywood up against the fence, while your board on the bottom can ride under the fence. And then you can push it through and get a perfectly straight edge, which you wouldn't have otherwise been able to do. So next, I'm going to show you how to switch this fence over to its low setting. Because when this fence is in its normal position, the first one I showed you, the fence is 4 inches tall. In this new position, we'll flip this face over so it's on the table saw, and then your fence reference is only 5/8 of an inch tall. So to do that, I'm first going to remove this. And then I'll flip this on its face like this. Now to transition to the low setting, we are going to have to move the mounting blocks from here to over here, faced upright. Now, before I removed these, I put a little pencil mark right here and right here. So I know exactly where to place my mounting blocks when I move them to the other position. Now to move these blocks, we're going to grab a 3/16 inch Allen wrench, and I'm going to loosen all these bolts. Now with those all loose, I'm going to slide this out off the fence, and then you'll see it's got 4 bolts in it and then 4 oval nuts. So first I'm going to remove these top ones completely. Now these will not be used anymore. And these two, I'm going to remove them, but I'm going to reinstall them in these 2 holes down here. Alright, now that I move those, I can go ahead and slide this mounting block into this slot right here. And since beforehand I made these pencil marks, I know exactly where my mounting block has to go. So I'll slide that over there, and then we can use an Allen wrench to snug it on up. Okay, and then once one side's done, we got to do the same thing to the other block. Now transitioning between that high and low setting takes about 2 to 3 minutes. It's not too bad. But to mount it to the fence is the exact same way we did at the beginning. Just slide my fence on the table like that, bring those mounting blocks over, and then we'll clamp them in place. Now you're going to want the fence in this low setting when you're ripping lots of thinner material. This piece is only about 1/4 inch thick, maybe 5/16, and it's just a lot easier to get your push stick in there and control the workpiece. That's probably the only time you'll find yourself having the fence in this position. Like I said, about 90–95% of the time, you're going to have it in the first position that I showed you. Well guys, that about wraps up this video on the compact auxiliary rip fence. If you have any questions about this system, please let me know if there's anything I didn't cover in the video. And if you're not already, please subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. If you want to watch some other Woodpecker's Tool videos, I will leave them right here.